Alright, usually these videos are very organized, but to start off here, I'm just going to go on a tangent because this thing... listen, I went through so many manuals, so many guides, and so much content just to try to make heads or tails of this godforsaken beast, and let me tell you, it is quite the rabbit hole, and me and you are about to go on an adventure down this rabbit hole, so I hope you're prepared. But do not worry, I am here for you, my friend. We are going to go down this magical journey of madness together. Okay, so our first question. What is Cait Sith? Actually, Death, it's pronounced Cait Sith because it comes from a Celtic fairy creature. Yes, the name did come from a Celtic creature, but the spelling was changed, so the pronunciation could have also been changed. But for the record, Cait Sith's name has never been spoken in any official Final Fantasy media, and even if it is spoken in the future, we all know how Bahamut went. So at this point, it's anybody's guess as to how to pronounce anything in the entire universe. The point is, I'm pronouncing it Cait Sith forever, so deal with it. So back to the question, what is Cait Sith? Well, this is one question that we do actually have a definitive answer for, but you might not be willing to accept it. Are you ready for this? Okay. Cait Sith is an anthropomorphic, remote-controlled stuffed cat on top of a robotic Moogle that, according to the Final Fantasy VII manual, the stuffed cat brought to life. Now, I know what you're wondering, Death, how does an anthropomorphic, remote-controlled stuffed cat bring a robotic Moogle back to life? Well, that's a very good question, but forget I ever even mentioned it, because it's never mentioned again in any Final Fantasy material of any kind. But listen, stay with me here, because we have much bigger fish to fry. Now, like I said, Cait Sith is the stuffed cat, which is on top of the robotic Moogle, so this begs the question, how is Reeve controlling a stuffed cat? Because the robotic Moogle makes sense, right? He's a robot. The materials say that the cat controls the robot with his megaphone, and it would make just as much sense if Reeve was just simply controlling it with a remote control or whatever. But the cat is a different story. It's an anthropomorphic stuffed cat with a voice and everything. So how does Reeve control that? Well, I'm about to tell you the answer to that, but I just want you to know that this might ruin everything you've ever understood about Final Fantasy VII, so just keep that in mind moving forward. Okay. Reeve controls the stuffed cat using magic. No, really. That's all I got. That's literally what it says in the Ultimania guide. Quote, by utilizing his special ability Inspire, he is able to cause inorganic things to emit life, and calls Cait Sith his child. Nothing else ever explains it, and every time we ever see Reeve, he never holds a controller or does anything to show us how he controls Cait Sith, so this is all we have. The man uses his mind to control a stuffed cat on top of a robot Moogle from hundreds of miles away. Now, as I sat here trying to wrap my head around this, I thought to myself, well, maybe Inspire is just Reeve's limit break, you know, just like the other characters have. But my issue with that is that I always thought limit breaks purposefully broke canon just to make the game fun. I mean, we know that Tifa can summon a dolphin to kick things, but it's not like she ever utilized that ability outside of battle. So I guess we could just assume that Reeve is some type of superhuman, like Cloud and Sephiroth. But they have Genova cells and Mako inside of them. Reeve is just a suit. I mean, the man doesn't even have like materia or anything that can give him the power. I mean, the whole thing, it just absolutely makes no sense. But that's what it is, so take it or leave it. Now, there's something else we need to address. Is Cait Sith just simply Reeve, or does he have a mind of his own? This is never explicitly stated anywhere. Official sources simply say that Reeve controls Cait Sith, but there's plenty of times where it seems like Cait Sith is acting on his own volition. And it doesn't seem like Reeve can just stand around all day sending mind waves to Cait Sith. I mean, the man has a job to do. One of the biggest points of evidence towards Cait Sith's sentience is the scene in the Temple of the Ancients where Cait Sith delivers a powerful monologue about not forgetting him, even though another Cait Sith is about to take his place. So what seems to be happening here is that Reeve brought Cait Sith, as in the cat on top of the Moogle, to life. And although it speaks and thinks for itself, it can be controlled by Reeve at any time from any distance using mind powers, and good lord, this sounds more and more like Reeve is the next member of the X-Men. The point is, the cat is probably its own being, and it controls the Moogle in order to protect itself, but in the end, Reeve controls him to make him do evil Shinra things. Also, while we are still talking about how all of this works, I'd like to point out two extremely strange entries in the Ultimania guide, which remember is the guide written to patch up all these plot points after the fact, so at this point they should have known what they were writing. Point number 1. Cait Sith speaks with a Scottish accent in Advent Children.
Lassie, shut your gob.
People took this as proof that Cait Sith is sentient, but the Ultimania guide actually states that because Reeve is the one operating him, he speaks with the unique accent of Reeve's original Kansai dialect. Okay then, but then it's Scottish in the English version? I always thought that he had a Scottish accent because of the origin of his name, Cait Sith, which comes from the fairy cat creature in Celtic mythology called Cait Sith that's common in Scottish folklore, or because Reeve's mother and father had a Scottish accent. But then what is this? And furthermore, why even bring that up unless the authors of the guide were trying to prove that Cait Sith isn't sentient? But then what is this? Point 2. The Ultimania guide says, quote, "In Before Crisis, while traveling with the Turks, Cait Sith is detained by a goblin along the way and his body dismantled into 3 parts. During this time, the name of each body part is head, body, and, not hands or feet, but crown. This crown is part of Reeve's hobby and an indispensable part of Cait Sith." Okay, excuse me, now you're telling me that the crown has some sort of super important place in all of this? What is the crown? The source of Reeve's powers? Is that why there's a Hypno Crown in the game? In that case, is Reeve just mind-controlling Cait Sith with his own manipulate materia? In that case, why is the crown never mentioned anywhere else again? And how is it important to his hobby? What hobby? His hobby of emitting life into lifeless items? Does Reeve just go around his house bringing silverware, furniture, and other inanimate objects to life as his hobby? Did Reeve create Pee-wee's Playhouse? Alright, I'm gonna move on. You can believe whatever you want. Honestly, I'm on the side of the cat is sentient, but Reeve tells him what to do. Reeve has superpowers, and the cat has a freaking Scottish accent. Moving on. Let's talk about the origins of Cait Sith, because this isn't even the first Cait Sith. In fact, this is Cait Sith number 3. The first Cait Sith was built during the events of Before Crisis Final Fantasy VII. Cait Sith aids the player Turk in finding support materia, but Reeve realizes that Cait Sith has no real fighting capabilities, leading him to realize that the way to keep Cait Sith's mobility while also giving him the ability to fight is to give him a giant Moogle to ride on. The player Turk then gets to control a second version of Cait Sith to infiltrate a Mako reactor. Cait Sith is then improved again and sent to the Gold Saucer to intercept Cloud during the events of Final Fantasy VII. Cait Sith tells Cloud an ominous fortune and then forces his way into the party in order to see the truth behind the prediction. In reality, Reeve just uses Cait Sith in order to spy on Cloud and his group in order to gather information for Shinra. Later, when the party returns to the Gold Saucer to receive the keystone from Dio, Cait Sith steals the keystone and hands it over to Sung. Afterwards, Cait Sith admits that he was a spy for Shinra, but doesn't tell the party who he actually is. At this point, a change in Cait Sith, and by extension Reeve, begins to emerge, as he seems to feel remorse for his actions. This seems to be in part because of a selflessness shown by Cloud and his party. Cait Sith wonders why the party does what they do, presumably because Reeve himself as a Shinra employee may have only been persuaded to act by money and power. Cloud is reluctant to keep Cait Sith around, but Cait Sith reveals that Marlene is still in his control. He then attempts to prove his remorse by showing the party where the Temple of the Ancients is, and they continue their quest. Reeve's gradual conversion from a Shinra executive to a member of Avalanche is a very key underlying theme of Final Fantasy VII, and is actually foreshadowed in a small scene earlier in the game during the Shinra HQ section. During the meeting that Cloud, Barret, and Tifa eavesdrop on, Reeve expresses discontent for the increase in Mako rates proposed by the president, even though it would result in a raise for himself. The meeting shows the seeds of Reeve's redemption starting to grow, and that growth is shown slowly throughout the game. The party soon learns that the Temple of the Ancients is a giant trap designed to transform into the Black Materia only after shrinking to size and crushing everybody inside. Cait Sith offers himself as a tribute, completing a sort of mini redemption arc for the character. Although Cait Sith isn't really sacrificing himself, in a way he is paying amends for his mistakes. In one of the most bizarre scenes in all of Final Fantasy VII, Cait Sith slowly approaches the altar while speaking a monologue to the song Words Drowned by Fireworks. This scene mystifies fans of the series as it seems to be giving Cait Sith his own identity separate from Reeve. For many, this scene is one of the most powerful in the series and it brings out emotions where it really shouldn't be warranted. Cait Sith is A, goofy and nonsensical character, B, a spy for the enemy, and C, a robot. Yet this scene attempts to bring true emotion to his sacrifice. Cait Sith succeeds in solving the temple's puzzle and is crushed, but model number 4 appears just moments later. Now, I'm going to take just a moment to step away from the plot of the game to discuss something else. During the City of the Ancients section, nothing happens directly related to Cait Sith or Reeve, but there is something very strange that happens during the Eris death scene if Cait Sith is in your party. The afterwards of the Genova life fight is one of the most impactful points of the game. Every character has a completely unique and emotional animation that plays out during this part, adding to the realism of the moment and cementing the memory of Eris's death in our adolescent minds for years to come. However, Cait Sith does something a little bit different. I actually can't believe I just watched that. I'm sure that a lot of people watching this right now who never used Cait Sith at this point in the game think I just created that. Like I created that Cloud and Tifa Highwind scene in my last video, but no. This is actually what Cait Sith does. Did the developers not think for 1 second that this might ruin the mood of the death scene? I mean, think of all the build-up, think of the stepping stones, the cloud control scene, then you have that beautiful theme playing while fighting Genova. And may I just say that the boss battle here is such an incredible design choice. So many kids were on edge needing to know if Eris is really dead while simultaneously trying to pay attention to the boss. I mean, truly masterful game design. But then to throw it all away on some stupid joke like this. I mean, let's face it. Cait Sith is for all intents and purposes a comedic relief throughout the game. He is a jokester that helps to take away from the incredibly serious tone the game carries throughout all 3 of its discs. I mean, I would go as far as to say that this makes Cait Sith a very important character in the game. Other than Cloud's dry sense of humor, we need some kind of funny character to help lift us up after all the difficult struggles we've gone through. But this is just downright ridiculous. It would have been enough for him to just attempt to cheer up Cloud, even though nobody would ever try to do that immediately after seeing somebody impaled. But then this nonsensical shimmy he does, like, I can't even watch it. It's not even funny. It's not funny. Soon after all of that, Cait Sith proves his loyalty again by saving Barret and Tifa during the weapon attack on Junon. In an interesting twist, the party spies on Shinra through Cait Sith, a reversal of earlier when Shinra used Cait Sith to spy on the party. They first learn of Shinra's plan to collect the huge materia, and later they learn of Shinra's defeat after the weapon attack. Scarlet and decide to take matters into their own hands once Rufus is presumed dead. Reeve freaks out when he realizes Hojo has taken over the Mako cannon and blows his cover as Cait Sith's controller. Scarlet and take Reeve captive, but Reeve is still able to control Cait Sith with his mind. The party defeats Hojo, and as they prepare for the final battle, Reeve says that he escaped Shinra and some people in Midgar took him in. As the party defeats Sephiroth, Reeve evacuates the people of Midgar into the slums in order to protect them from Meteor's impact. 2 years later, Cait Sith returns to help the party defeat
Bahamut?
Sin while riding on Red 13's back. In the intro to the movie, Cait Sith also rides on Red 13's back during the recap of Final Fantasy VII, although in the Advent Children Complete version, they put Cait Sith back on his Moogle. This was either done to be more accurate to the plot, since Cait Sith should be on the Moogle during the recap, or just because Cait Sith was pretty hard to spot in Red 13's fur. Cait Sith can also be seen at the end of the movie with the rest of the crew, this time being held by Marlene. In Dirge of Cerberus, Reeve actually plays a more pivotal role as the leader of the World Regenesis organization. This position completes his redemption arc, a journey from Shinra executive to Avalanche member, and now to the leader of Shinra's replacement. Unfortunately, he's mostly just a game tool to help Vincent stay on task and doesn't do anything super interesting. Cait Sith, on the other hand, helps Vincent infiltrate Mako Reactor Zero, just like he helped the player Turk back in Before Crisis, and is captured by Nero and forced to help infiltrate the Sheriff. Afterwards, Reeve creates a 5th Cait Sith with all of the memories of the previous models. There's only one more interesting scene from Dirge of Cerberus that I can talk about, but my words can't do it justice, so instead, I'm just going to show you it in its entirety. Enjoy.
I don't know what you're up to, but I want absolutely no part of it.
But you fought alongside us 3 years ago. We need your help once more.
Reeve.
That was a close one. I never was good at fighting. Luckily, I came out wearing Reeve. You're really not a bad bloke, are you, Vincent? You pretend not to care, but you always come through in the end.
It should also be mentioned that Reeve makes a small appearance in the case of Denzel, one of the short stories in On the Way to a Smile. Reeve interviews Denzel, who expressed interest in joining the WRO. After hearing of Denzel's story after surviving Meteor Fall and taking care of Reeve's own mother, Johnny, yes, this Johnny, says that Denzel can't join. Reeve agrees, saying that Denzel's story persuaded him to not accept any children at all into the WRO. He thanks Denzel for looking after his mother and leaves. In Final Fantasy VII, Cait Sith is a very unique character, having only 2 limit breaks that are both dependent on luck. His stats are pretty abysmal in relation to the other characters, but surprisingly he has one of the best magic stats in the game. His weapons, which are megaphones that Cait Sith uses to yell commands to his Moogle sidekick, usually have a lot of materia slots, which in conjunction with his high magic stat actually makes him a formidable magic caster at all stages of the game. His ultimate weapon, the HP Shout, located in the Shinra HQ during the Shinra raid near the end of the game, deals more damage based on how full his HP gauge is, the same effect as Cloud's ultimate weapon. With one of the more mediocre ultimate weapons, and mostly mediocre stats, Cait Sith seems like a bad choice as part of the team. But Cait Sith's true power is in his 2 luck-based limit breaks, and they alone actually make him the strongest character in the game. Technically. His first limit break, Dice, deals damage based on a dice roll. The damage formula is as follows: X times Y times 100 equals damage dealt. X is the sum of the dice roll, and Y is the highest amount of matching dice. So for example, if there's a match of 2 dice, Y would be 2, and if there's a match of 3 dice, Y would be 3. In addition, Cait Sith gains an additional die every 10 levels that he has, up to a maximum of 6 dice at level 60 and above. This attack can be extremely powerful early game, and extremely powerful in challenge runs of the game because it does static damage. In other words, Dice always does the damage from the formula, regardless of Cait Sith's strength, the enemy's defense, status effects, or anything else that affects damage other than just negating damage completely. Cait Sith's second limit break, Slots, includes tons of different effects based on the outcome of a slot machine. Toy Soldier summons a line of soldiers that deals 5 times normal damage to all enemies. Mog Dance heals all of the party's HP and MP. Lucky Girl grants the entire party automatic criticals for the rest of the battle, unless they die. Transform causes Cait Sith to absorb all other party members into himself and become a super Cait Sith. He gains an average of all the party members' stats and continues the battle as normal, though he can no longer use limit breaks. When the battle ends, the other characters gain a split of Cait Sith's HP and MP, and any dead characters are revived. If Cait Sith is alone when Transform is used, it fails. Summon performs any random summon in the game. The higher Cait Sith's level, the higher the chance of a stronger summon. Toy Box drops a random item on the enemy. A rock deals 2 times damage, icicles deals 2.5 times damage, a weight deals 3 times damage, a hammer deals 3.5 times damage, a fat chocobo deals 4 times damage, a hell house deals 4.5 times damage, and meteorites deal 5 times damage. Death Joker kills your entire party and there's nothing you can do about it. No method of escaping death, like Death Force, will prevent it. The only way to survive Death Joker is to get it during a side attack. In this case, it will only kill one side of your party. Also, quick note, if you cheat Sephiroth into the game, Death Joker won't kill him, because he's Sephiroth. Game Over kills all enemies, and I mean all enemies. Game Over is the strongest attack in the game and will destroy anything and everything put in front of it. The only enemy that can survive Game Over is Ruby Weapon, if his tentacles are above ground, but use it when his tentacles are underground and even he is no match. Normally, Game Over is extremely difficult to use, and that's putting it lightly. Every attack on the slots normally has the same chance to show up, because the slots are actually stopped when the player presses the confirm button. In order to make certain combinations harder than others, Squaresoft took a different approach, named the Evil Flag by the community. Basically, the game cheats by deliberately moving the slots one extra space when you are going to get a match. The Evil Flag is turned on or off based on your in-game timer. A bar or Moogle match will be evil flagged if your time is not divisible by 2. A heart match will be evil flagged if the timer is not divisible by 4. And a Cait Sith match will be evil flagged if the timer is not divisible by 64. In other words, you have a 1.5% chance to not get screwed when you try to use Game Over. Furthermore, if you hit this 1.5 chance, you still need to hit confirm at the right time. Fortunate enough for the hardcore fans of the game, a way was found to cheat Cait Sith slots to give you any outcome you want. In fact, this trick works on all of the slot games, including Tifa's Limit Break and the Battle Arena slots. I'll link my own explanation of the exploit in the description below, but to give you a very basic explanation, you can use the switch button, usually the square button, to hide the menu in battle. This actually stops the slots, so by releasing and pressing the button over and over, you can buffer the slots to slowly land on the icon that you need. This leaves only one problem, the Evil Flag. The Evil Flag can be defeated though, with a very precise button press. Basically, you need to line up the final icon that you need, let go of the switch button, then press confirm twice in rapid succession. If done correctly, the game will land on the correct icon, then attempt to roll over to the next due to the Evil Flag, but the second confirm press will cancel out the box completely and cause whatever is currently displaying to be used. This one trick turns Cait Sith from one of the most useless characters in the game, besides maybe the usefulness of dice early in the game, to the strongest character in the game by far. So strong in fact that most categories of high-level Final Fantasy VII play, from challenge runs to speedruns, bans the use of slots. Cait Sith is one of the only characters to have little changes during development. Reeve had one scene cut from the game where he would have jeopardized his position at Shinra by shutting down the Mako reactors for Avalanche. This was later replaced with the scene where Reeve is arrested in Shinra HQ. There was also an old concept of Cait Sith with the class name Toysaurus, or Beastmaster. In this concept, Cait Sith would have been 9 years old and would have fought with whips and cards. Cait Sith did retain the name Toysaurus in the Final Fantasy VII manual. Tetsuya Nomura has also stated that the idea to have Cait Sith ride Red 13 in later installments of the franchise came from an old character concept he had of a cat riding a dog.
Shut your mouth!
Cait Sith is voiced by Hideo Ishikawa in Japanese, the same voice actor for Auron and Squall from Dissidia. He is voiced by Greg Ellis in English, who has voiced many other video game characters and acted in several movies, including the part of Lieutenant Theodore Groves in Pirates of the Caribbean. Just think about that for a second. This guy voiced Cait Sith. A tiny Cait Sith can be seen in one of the keyholes in the Honeybee Inn, along with 2 characters who refer to each other as Grandma and Grandpa. Some fans have theorized that these people could be related to Reeve in some way. Cait Sith appears as a playable character in Dirge of Cerberus, as mentioned before, and also as a summon in Crisis Core. Cait Sith's theme plays 3 times throughout the game. When the party first meets him in the Gold Saucer, during his big monologue in the Temple of the Ancients, and during the Honeybee Inn scene. Cait Sith's line, "Number 5 is alive," in Dirge of Cerberus,
Number 5 is alive!
is both a hint that this Cait Sith is the 5th version, and a reference to a 1986 US science fiction film called Short Circuit. It might be strange that a black cat character, a sign of bad luck in many parts of the world, is a fortune teller whose main battle gimmick is based on luck. But in Japan and Great Britain, being crossed by a black cat is actually a sign of good luck, which may have been part of the inspiration for Cait Sith's character. Cait Sith is also the only mandatory character that never needs to be placed in the party in order to beat the game, which adds to the stigma of Cait Sith being a useless character. Believe it or not, the ill-fated fortune given to Cloud is actually referenced in a different game. Marluxia in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories references the fortune in the opening of the game, stating, "Along the road ahead lies something you need. However, in order to claim it, you must lose something that is dear to you." Thank you guys so much for watching this in-depth look at Cait Sith. I have more in-depth looks and more Final Fantasy VII content coming to the channel very soon, so be sure to subscribe if you want to see that, but more importantly, leave a comment down below and let me know which character you would like to see an in-depth look at next.